Welcome to Grown Folk Talking. Express yourself. The podcast will begin momentarily.
Please announce yourself.
You know every little thing you do, even when I'm feeling blue, it makes me smile. Yes, we're going through some stormy weather. Yes, but we still need together. 'Cause I know we'll find a light on the other side. 'Cause we'll be just fine if we take off.
Xtra-Hype, Xtra-Hype. Loud and clear, Xtra-Hype. Yes, sir. Gonna get started momentarily. We're not gonna take too long this evening. Starting soon, right after this one. Yes, indeed. Welcome to the podcast.
I can breathe just fine. 'Cause you got me in my prime, though. And it feels so good. Yes, we're going through some stormy weather. Yes, but we still need together. 'Cause I know we'll find that light on the other side. 'Cause we'll be just fine if we take off the time. Let the sun shine. We'll be just fine. Let the sun shine. Let the sun.
Once again, Monday night from Poverty to Prosperity podcast. With the host Marcus, FloFokuz, the Xtra-Hype Connection team in the building with you tonight. We're going to start in just a few moments, my friends. We're not going to take too long tonight. We've got some very, very good conversational information coming out for you tonight. Good talking points. I hope everybody comes in. Invite your friends. The more the merrier. We're about to begin. Stick around.
If we take off the time, let the sun shine. 'Cause we'll be just fine. All we both know we'll be just fine. If we take off the time, let the sun shine. 'Cause we'll be just fine.
Once again, welcome to the podcast, everybody. The Xtra-Hype Connection right here on the Grown Folk Talking Network. Just want to welcome you. It's Monday night from Poverty to Prosperity. We're about to jump right into things right now. And as customary, we're just going to do a few little housekeeping things. We're going to go ahead and show some love to local businesses that support this podcast. We'll make sure you hear us loud and clear. So we have Konos Restaurant, the mouth-watering cuisine, located at 16 Clinton Street, Brick City, Newark, New Jersey. Some of the best cuisine that you may have ever seen if you've ever been there. And if you haven't, we suggest you walk over and just walk in and take a look around. Also, meet the friendly staff. Let them know how you found them on the podcast. That's right. Let them know. Let them know you heard about them on the podcast right here, Grown Folk Talking Network. Also, let them know that Walter sent you, all right? That's right, mention that Walter sent you, and they'll make sure to take care of you. Right over there, Konos Restaurant, 16 Clinton Street, Newark, New Jersey. Also, the Fruit House at 764 Broad Street, Go ahead and see Johan and Isamar for smoothies, cold pressed juices, herbs, spices, also sea moss, and a whole lot more in store right there, 764 Broad Street, the Fruit House. And last but not least, exclusively this week, if you have a taste for lemon cake with lemon frosting or caramel apple cheesecake cups, they're almost like cupcakes, my friend. Head on over to Halsey News at 2 Prudential Drive right here in Newark, New Jersey, downtown area. You can't miss her. Monday to Friday from 9 to 5. Say hello to Shahida. She'll be definitely glad to meet you, and check out her sweet treats this week at Halsey News. Taste cuisine just for you. And just a few more things of housekeeping, then we'll get it started. We've also got some websites that you definitely need to stop by and support and visit. Take advantage of some offers there as well at networkingforsuccess.info/groovology-360. You get them. That is our thank you and gift page just for you on that website. That's right. When you go to networkingforsuccess.info/groovology-360, that is our thank you page. Just want to thank you for coming on in and joining us, being a part of the podcast. Also, hello to our new listeners. Welcome to the podcast. Glad to have you with us this evening. Also, liquidmana.com, Liquid Mana, spelled M-A-N-N-A, liquidmana.com. Oxygenated water. I tell you, it's such a great thing. Right there on their website, you can see how many different varieties they bring. Liquidmana.com, and a whole lot more products that have your health and wellness in store. So check them out at liquidmana.com. And upon checkout, put in the code GTF2025. That's GTF 2025. Just like that. And get a discount off your entire order. That's right. We worked it out just for you. So liquidmana.com is one of the websites for you, my friends. Definitely. ProLogicStrategies.com. You got FloFokuz of the Xtra-Hype connection with ProLogicStrategies.com. Lots going on there. Make sure you go over today. Create your account at ProLogicStrategies.com and receive 2,000 bonus points upon signing up that you can use in our Flip Side Friday event, which will take place the last Friday in this month. And we got some very, very good things going out for you this month as well. So make sure you tune in and invite your friends. And last but not least, I want you to go ahead and check out BearCatBody.com. The lovely Leslie Wright, proprietor of the site, has some very good products. I'll tell you, amazing what she's got there for the eyes, for the skin, for the hair, for the nails, for the scalp, everything from head to toe without a doubt. She's got dental products for your teeth, your gums. She's got deodorant products that are all 100% natural, no chemicals, no preservatives. Everything is 100% natural and organic. So make sure you check out Bearcat Body for those products and a whole lot more that she has in store on her website just for you. And that takes care of our housekeeping, my friends. Thank you for bearing with us while we made those announcements. And if you have something that you would like for us to announce to, just give a shout out to, definitely get in contact with FloFokuz at ProLogicStrategies.com. All right, create your account, and you can definitely send a message via email. You can chat, or you can call the number on the website. All different ways to connect. That's right. And without further ado, my friends, I want to welcome all of our listeners, both recurring and new listeners to the podcast. Thank you for joining us. And without further ado, tonight we're going to start early for you. I think we're going to be starting a little bit early. From now on, we're going to cut back on our sound selection just a little bit to bring you more content in the evenings when we're here. So once again, thank you, my friends, and let's get into our topic tonight. Tonight's show is dedicated to the disabled community, whether you're visually impaired, legally blind, hard of hearing, whether you're para or quadriplegic, whether you have a different type of disability, maybe cognitive, maybe something that, renders you to need assistance or aid or anything of that nature. Tonight's program is dedicated to those with disabilities as well as their loved ones, their family, their friends, their caregivers, their assistants, everyone who touches your life, our lives. We dedicate this, first of all, to our respective communities, to our neighboring communities, and to those who are in our lives for our greatest good and who want to see us succeed and thrive in whatever we do. This podcast is dedicated not only to us, but to all of the rest of you who touch and impact our lives in a positive way. We want to bring you some good information tonight, so once again, get your invite on. Make sure you bring in your friends, those that you know in the communities, as well as tell them to invite their family friends as well, because we're going to be running this particular podcast series for several weeks so that we can get down to what is going on in our community that affects or has the ability to affect all of us. So tonight, we want to talk about our transportation service. Some of us, well, I won't mention the service, but we all know here in New Jersey that we have a transportation service that most of us in our community, our disabled community, we use this transportation service for us to be able to travel from point A to point B. Now, that's most of us, not all of us, but most of us do. And there are other options that we use as well to get around, such as rideshare services that are provided, and as well as some other services that have been newly brought to our attention that we can utilize for the sake of traveling, for the sake of transportation, for the sake of getting from point A to point B, or to just go and visit people that we know, people that we love, to get to work, to go shopping, all of these things that we may need some assistance in order to complete. So today, with such a service being so greatly needed and in demand in our community, we want to touch on a few things that we think that everybody should know and would be a benefit for all of us to know. So with respect to our transportation service, I don't know if most of you know of this or have heard of this, but there are some policy changes that have been instituted within the last, I would say approximately the last 2 to 3 months. Approximately. I could be a little off on that calculation, and I'll find out specifically But let's just say within the last 2 to 3 months, there's been some policy changes that have affected new clients who have signed up for our transportation service here provided in New Jersey, our rideshare service, as well as the rideshare services peer-to-peer that are Uber and Lyft. Now, just so that we're on the same page and we are walking down the same path, in New Jersey here, well, I'll just go ahead and say that. In New Jersey, our service is called Access Link, and it's a very vital and essential transportation service for people in our communities to be able to get around. And we're very grateful for the service because it serves a great purpose for us, and it really allows us to do some things that without it we would find very difficult to be able to do. Now, recently, I was made aware by email of some policy changes that are going to be put into effect. Now, let me explain these policy changes and how this thing is working out, and then we're going to go through some different points regarding what we call agreements. Now, when I got this particular email with respect to these proposed policy changes, these policy changes stand to affect. Hold on, everybody. Got a little bit of noisemakers out here. Let's silence them for a moment there. All right. Thank you for hanging in there with me. Sorry about the noisemakers. It ain't even New Year's Eve, you know? Okay. Okay, so now back to our topic here. When I received this email regarding these proposed policy changes, what is being proposed here is a change to some essential rideshare services that have been a great addition and a great option for our riders to use in the event that, yes, we need to get somewhere the same day, which are the Uber and the Lyft rideshare services. And those were provided to the riders in a pilot program that I think started, I believe, in 2024 maybe earlier, but I definitely know it was instituted in 2024. And the perks were great. Everything was always great at the beginning. There was no cost to ride at the time. It was a pilot. They were testing it out to see how it would work. And it was successful, great success with those two rideshare services, because if, let's say, someone scheduled their transportation ride to go to a certain place that they needed to get to, and let's say that ride was delayed, well, a lot of times that would create havoc in our schedules. So the option was, well, if that's the case, either the Access Link rideshare company would schedule an Uber or a Lyft to come and pick you up and take you where you needed to go. And later on, when we were given more control over that, we were able to do that ourselves. And we received 20 rides per month per service, so 20 rides for Lyft and 20 rides for Uber. And that was within a month. So 40 rides per month, not bad. Very affordable and great program. Well, some of these policy changes propose that some of these rideshare benefits with Uber and Lyft will be changed. And the changes that will be occurring are a decrease in the amount of rides that riders will receive every month. So therefore, instead of receiving 20 rides per service per month, which would total up to be 40 rides per month between the two services, the proposal is to cut that in half so that the ride that we would receive would be 10 and 10 for a total of just 20 rides in a month. That's not even one ride every day. And that particular arrangement has been put in place to affect people who have signed up for that particular ride share service, to include Uber and Lyft being Access Link riders. Those who have just signed up recently this year are only receiving 10 Uber and 10 Lyft rides. That's already been put into effect for new riders. However, riders who signed up for the pilot program for the Uber and the Lyft through Access Link are still receiving 20 rides per service per month, so 40 rides. Until January of 2026, when the proposal is to decrease the amount of those rides to 10 and 10, 20 per month, which is what new subscribers have now. Now, let me stop here for a moment and ask, does anyone have a question, a statement, or a comment at this time that you want to make, want to ask, want to add to the conversation? If you do, you can chime in now, ask a question, make a comment, make a statement, add info to the conversation if you like, or else we'll move on. So we'll count it down. 1, 2, 3. Okay, let's move on. We'll open it up again later. Okay, so I believe that decreasing the number of rides that we as customers of the Access Link program would be more of a detriment than a benefit. I just tend to believe that when you decrease something that is good by a great consensus of people, and that actually works to provide people with a solution and a dependable option that works, I believe by decreasing that, it basically, does basically not a good thing for those who receive it. So in other words, if you receive something that really nourishes your body, or maybe something that helps you to sleep naturally, or something that gives you quick, and sustaining energy throughout the day naturally, or something that nourishes you, or nourishes your skin, your hair, and all these other things, helps to improve and enhance you, why would you want to receive less of that? Wouldn't make sense. Well, It appears here that that is the offer that is on the table. Now, the way that this works, I'll repeat it again, is that subscribers who were already subscribed to the rideshare program through Access Link for Lyft and Uber, we are still receiving 20 rides per service per month until January of 2026. New subscribers to the program who have just recently subscribed this year for that service are only receiving 10 rides per service. So 10 and 10, Uber 10, Lyft 10, and that's in a month. Okay? Now, there's something here that I noticed, and I thought it would be important to bring it to the forefront so that people would be able to know what's going on here. Now, the subscribers who still have 40 rides per month have the 40 rides per month because of an existing agreement. When people joined the pilot program, well, there was a pilot program for this rideshare option. Basically, what happened was people were given the option to try the service to see if they liked the service and wanted to keep the service, Uber and Lyft, in addition to having Access Link at their disposal as well, which made sense. Made sense, a lot of sense. So that's an existing agreement. It's a standing agreement. Because when people accepted the pilot launch of this particular option, it wasn't discontinued, it was continued forward. So therefore, we have it. We have the service. Now that's locked in place due to an agreement. And this is a standing agreement. And it's legally binding. So technically, we, all parties involved, agreed that this rideshare program was a good thing. Certain people tested it out to see how it would work, and their feedback was recorded and basically kept on file so that it would be known how the program was working. So basically, the riders agreed to the terms, which is to utilize the service when maybe Access Link is overwhelmed or is unable to provide us with a ride that we might need right away, okay? And we had the right to use the service. Access Link made certain arrangements or agreements to cover a certain portion in terms of cost per ride, and the riders agreed to cover a smaller portion of cost per ride, and that gave us the right to use it. It gave Access Link or New Jersey Transit, whichever one, the right to set the prices that they would cover. So we all agreed. All right, no problem. Here is where the questionable part comes in. January of 2026. From what you hear, you'll be expecting for the rideshare option to be altered. However, that is not the case, and that is not what is going on here. And I'll tell you this. This notification that came to my email came last month of September to basically inform that yes, in 2026 January, the proposal on the table is to alter the program. Doesn't mean that the program is going to be altered, but that's the proposal moving forward. However, we as writers and users of the service have an option. And that option is to speak as to what we feel about this proposal, whether we feel it's a good thing and whether we will accept it, meaning our contract or our agreement will be altered, or whether we say, well, no, we don't accept that change. It's not a good thing for our needs, and we recommend or suggest that this change should be instituted instead. Now, there's something significant. Because there is a standing agreement, we have a certain amount of time to speak and allow our voice to be heard. Usually it's best to do that in writing, where everybody forms one big conglomerate and some type of document is drafted with our words and with our intentions as to what we will accept, what we won't accept, what we propose, if any changes are to be made, what those changes would be. So in other words, if they want to decrease the number of rides that we can utilize or that we can have at our disposal every month, we may say something like, well, that really doesn't work for us. But I'll tell you what we will accept. We will accept that you can decrease the rides from 20 per service to 15 per service. However, your company has to pay a higher rate per ride. And we still pay the same rate that we pay. But because we have a decrease in the number of rides that we are willing to accept, that number, what you pay per ride has to increase by $5 or $10 to balance it out. Now, that's an option that's available because of the agreement. Now, if nobody says anything, nobody raises an objection or a rebuttal to the proposal that's on the table, then the assumption is that everybody's okay with the proposal. So therefore, we lose that one. And the changes will begin immediately. So the whole idea here is not that we have to sit back and accept everything that is being fed to us on a spoon, so to speak. We don't have to accept that. But it is up to us to speak and to be heard so that we're not taken advantage of, we're not ignored, we're not treated with disparagement, meaning basically, as though we're unimportant, as though we don't need to be paid attention to, as though our thoughts are not important or just as critical as the next person's thoughts, that we should not be, you know, treated with some type of fairness. So therefore, if we stay silent with respect to this issue, these changes will take effect. And believe me, when changes like this occur, and the ones making the policy changes have no pushback, no one voicing anything to object or rebut or anything, more changes are coming because it's just so easy. And then eventually, there may be no more option that exists for us because we never said anything. We never made a statement. We never said, wait, stop, pump your brakes. No. We're not doing that. Okay? We're not doing that. So it's up to us to make sure that we are heard, because a lot of times we are our own advocates in our communities, in our respective communities. We don't always have those who can advocate on our behalf for whatever reasons. And even those that we think would advocate on our behalf sometimes prove to us that they don't advocate on our behalf. And maybe it's because they're probably stretched too thin, or maybe they just don't have the desire to do it, whatever it may be. But we have to be the ones that are more concerned about our own situations, and we have to take the action, and we can. There's nothing in our way. There's nothing stopping us. We have an open door here to walk straight through and to get it done. But it's up to us to understand how important this is. And there's a lot of things that we can affect change with if we would just vocalize and document what we feel and what we think. Do we want our agreements to stand? Well, yes, we want our agreements to stand. So suppose, and this is just an example, a landlord comes to the tenant and says, hey, I'm going to raise the rent next year. And I'm going to put in for a $200 rent increase. That's the offer. That's the proposal. It's not set in stone because the negotiation still has to complete. Whether somebody says, no, I will not accept a $200 rent increase, but what I will agree to is a $50 rent increase and not a $200 rent increase. Now, that's an offer made from the other side. Someone who's being affected by the first offer and the policy change. You get to say, well, wait a minute, no, we're going to nullify that, take that off the table. Now we're putting this on the table. Negotiations are still in place. And guess what? While negotiations are still going on, nothing can change. This is the power that is ours to use. And these are the options that we have available to us in order to make sure that our needs are served. Not because somebody else chooses what they want us to have, but because we know what we need and we stand for what it is that we need. and for that not to change. So at this point, before I move on to my final point here, I wanted to open up the floor to ask if anyone has a question about our agreements that work in our behalf that are being attacked by policy changes. Does anyone have a comment? You have a statement? Or anybody want to add some information? The floor is open.
Hey, Marcus, this is Joffrey.
Hey, good to hear you. Good to hear you.
I don't know much about this here. I do believe that New Jersey Transit is state-owned, or is it just state-governed? Does it exist by means of taxpayer dollars in any way, shape, or form? Because if it does, I'm more in agreement with what you're saying, and I'd be willing to sign any petition that was developed. But I'm thinking about the words pilot and beta and trial. And to me, they all indicate that we're going to try this. So I'm not so sure that there's an agreement that can be enforced, because it was just a trial, and now that they've worked out the link, the whatever you call it, the kinks, they have decided that economically it's feasible for everybody, more so for themselves, to have lesser options for rides during the month, and the increase in whatever fee the rider has to pay. So that's what I'm thinking as I'm hearing. But like I said, I would be willing to sign my name on any petition. I'm just not sure we have the footing to demand, and I yield.
Okay. All right. I like your points. I like your statements there. And I would like to speak to, I'm going to try to speak to your statements, make sure I cover all the bases here. New Jersey Transit, I would say, is a for-profit company. I am not 100% sure of all the different layers that may cover New Jersey Transit and how they may operate within certain other, let's say, areas with transportation. But I do know that New Jersey Transit is a for-profit company, and they do allow their equipment to be leased by other companies. So you may have New Jersey Transit, which has the umbrella, but underneath their umbrella, they may have Company A, Company B, Company C operating different equipment, to which they pay a leasing fee to New Jersey Transit for the use of it. And there are other arrangements that they have to, maintain the equipment while they use it, and there are certain, offerings that New Jersey Transit gives to them for, maintaining or keeping the equipment running, such as maybe mechanic garages, maybe some fuel credits or allowances, and other things probably. So New Jersey Transit, as far as I know, is a for-profit company. So it's not actually, from what I'm gathering, it's not state-owned. It would actually be privately owned. So that's, from my information, what I am aware of with respect to how they operate. Now, with respect to the pilot program that was introduced through Access Link to the riders who use the Access Link service, initially, the pilot program, yes, was just a trial. You know, let's put this out here. Let's see what kind of response we get, or they would get, to what they were offering with Uber and Lyft, and the response was overwhelming. So a lot of people really got with it and said, wait a minute, they got this now, okay, and they realized the value of it. So Access Link put the pilot together with these options, and their test was to see how many riders would respond to it and how would they respond. You know, with everything included and considered as well. So the pilot was to see what type of response they would get, and there was an option during that pilot time. You could, cancel the service and say, I don't want to use this anymore, and just go back to using Access Link Straight. Or you could say, hey, I want to keep this. And that would be then included into your rider profile, that you have options such as Lyft and Uber. Other than that, all the other terms and conditions were pretty much the same, except for when they shortened the time that we could take our rides from 24 hours down to, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. So we had 15 hours instead of 24 hours. Because when it first started, it was around the clock, because Uber and Lyft worked around the clock. Then the change occurred very subtly. I don't think a lot of us caught it, but they changed that 24-hour period to a 15-hour period instead. So between the hours of 6 in the morning and 9 p.m., you could schedule rides with Uber and Lyft. But after that time, you have to pay Uber and Lyft prices if you want to use the service. So it won't be covered by Access Link during those times. Some other changes that were made, and I kind of figured this was going to happen when the rideshare service options began. The rides were at no charge initially. The whole amount was covered by NJ Transit, Access Link. Shortly thereafter, when the time change, went from 24 hours to 15 hours, so did the price change from not paying anything for the rides to paying a couple of dollars for the rides. Okay. So there was, a change, a slight increase, but nothing taxing. Nothing, that would just kind of break your pocket, because still transit covered a certain amount and only required the riders to pay a small nominal fee, which is wonderful. So whether or not there is an agreement, a standing agreement there, I would say that there is, because we went through the initial pilot stage, and then from the pilot stage, it was actually implemented as, a standing option for people to choose. And the fact that people could enroll thereafter was also evidence that, okay, this is something that, is a standing option by agreement. Everybody who wanted it had to complete an enrollment in order for the agreement between the rider and the company to exist for that service. Now, here's one thing out. There is such a thing called a grandfather clause in most agreements. And what a grandfather clause does for people who have existing agreements is it allows the individual who is a party to the agreement and receives a certain benefit from it to continue to receive that benefit as a standing benefit as long as they have evidence of their agreement or their entry into an agreement at certain terms and conditions. So, for example, if if we get an offer from, let's say, a retailer, let's just say, I don't know, Whole Foods, gives out a special offer. It says, take advantage of this membership offer, pay $50 one time, and have a lifetime basic membership for just $50. Now, okay, if you accept that offer with those terms and those conditions, now you have a standing agreement. Now, later on, they may take that offer and take it off the table, and they may make the offer in a different way and say, okay, everybody who wants a basic membership can join at a cost of $20 per month. Now, the new enrollees to this program may get it at $20 a month, but since someone else may have got it at a special promotion for just a one-time payment of $50 for the same membership, same benefits, basically for life, if they wanted it, they're grandfathered in. So therefore, the offerer cannot go to the individual who got it at the special rate and say, okay, listen, we understand that you paid a one-time price of this amount to enjoy this basic membership for that one price, no monthly cost, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to have the arrangement change so that you now have to pay $20 a month for the same membership that you got at a special discount rate. Well, technically, a grandfather clause would kick in there to help secure your rights according to the terms of your agreement for the use of that particular membership, which was a one-time price of this amount and nothing, never having to pay anything else for life, but you get the benefit because you got in at that particular promotion. Same thing here. With riders who, let's say, enrolled for the rideshare option with Uber and Lyft at a certain time, basically are grandfathered in, barring any of their changes moving forward. But the only way the change can go into effect and be enforced is if the people who have accepted the offer of this program refuse to say or vocalize or sign off on anything that secures their position. In other words, if we silently assent, meaning somebody says something expecting us to give a response and we say nothing, then saying nothing is an agreement to what that individual wants. So if the boss, just for example, says, hey, I want you to come in on the weekend and work overtime. But you never say no. You never say, no, I can't do that, or no, I won't do that. Then the boss can technically expect or have an expectation that you are going to be there on the weekend to work. Why? Because you never said that you would not. It's called silent assent or acquiescence. Silently agreeing by not saying anything. So basically, all right, boss, whatever you said. So we have a real opportunity here to secure what we already have. And I think it behooves all of us to really think about what the possibility could be if we allow what we have to be taken away simply just by not vocalizing, not documenting, not expressing, that, hey, we are not willing to alter our agreement to those terms. Then we can write our own ticket and make our own counter offer, which continues the negotiation. So, Joffrey, I'm glad that your energy and your focus is for the greater good of yourself as well as the communities that benefit from the rideshare options that we have. And I will definitely be getting information together so that all those who would like to still have, a secure option that's not decreased next year can vocalize and say, hey, this is what I want. And you may be one of, let's say, 5,000 people, 10,000 people, all depending on who all uses the service, as well as the PCAs that ride along with people. Yes, they have a voice in this too. So it is not just those of us who are in the disabled community, but it's also those who assist us and who personally care for us when they're with us. So with that being said, I'm going to land it right there. I'm going to open it up again for any questions, comments, or statements. And if they're not, I'm going to turn it over to FloFokuz because he has some information there that I believe he wants to share with you to give simple clarity so that what you hear from him will be in more of a usable form. So does anybody have a question, comment, or statement?
Well, I do, Marcus. Good afternoon. Good evening to you, sir.
Good evening, Brian.
How you feel tonight, sir?
Feeling great. Thanks for asking.
Great. Great topic. Listen, I haven't chimed in long because I was doing some research. As you know, it takes a lot to stay number one, so I was doing some research. I just figured I would throw that at you, Marcus. Yeah, I'm not going to let you take my position, my friend. I work hard to stay there. And what most people don't realize, once you get there, it takes even more work to stay there. So God bless you tonight, Marcus. God bless you tonight. My name is Brian, and I'm the co-host of the #1 podcast in New Jersey that is no longer silent. Heard right here at Grown Folks Talking Network on Wednesday nights from 6 to 8 p.m. Well, with that being said, my question is, would you say that scenario that you just gave could be used as for people who don't vote? Let me make myself clear. When you have disgruntlements about your city, your council, or your government per se, and voting season comes up, and you decide for whatever reason not to cast your vote, haven't you just declared that you agree with whatever's going on that you really don't like?
Well, I would have to tell you that a case could be made for that, yes. A case could be made for that. However, I would also have to say that it would not necessarily be absolute. But a case could be made that, okay, someone may just go with the flow. Whoever gets in there, okay, fine, whatever. But does that mean that that is binding on that person? Well, not necessarily. Because the vote is not the only speech or the voice that someone has with respect to the political system. Even after the vote, people have voted one way, people have voted another way, and those whose votes went this way have it. But what about the people over here who voted the other way and didn't get it? Well, they still have a voice. So technically speaking, a case could be made for that, but also at the same token, everyone still has a right to voice what their, what their likes or dislikes are.
Yes, sir. Okay. Well, since you put it that way, let me send the question this way then. Okay. Isn't the vote the catalyst for getting you, whoever you are, into position to make decisions that might cause others to have a better life?
I'm not sure I'm hearing your question correctly, but let me see. You're wondering, is the vote the mechanism that gets
to get you, whoever you are, into position to possibly make decisions that will make other people's lives better? In other words, I'm just asking plainly that I don't believe you can take position in an office, a council, or whatever without someone voting you in.
That is true.
That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. So the vote is the catalyst to getting you, whoever you are, in position to make better choices that people might have better lives.
Well, I will say this. I will
just
offer
a question,
this.
Just a question.
Yeah, and I'll answer with this. It's not a blanket policy over everything. It is actually specialized circumstances in which that applies, because it doesn't apply to everything across the board. There are certain issues and topics that those things do apply to. So you're putting someone, or actually giving someone a nod. Basically, you're hiring them. You're saying, okay, I want to hire you, so I'm going to go ahead and vote that you get hired, because I am on the hiring team and I believe that you should get the nod. So let me cast the vote for you. And that's what's basically going on. That's a whole hiring process. Yes,
thank you so much, Marcus. Always, God bless you. Xtra-Hype, God bless you. So really good to hear you tonight. I am sitting back. I am dropping this microphone. It is now on mute. My ears are open. Well, we thank you, Slow Focus, Prince. I appreciated Brian's question as well as Marcus's, I want to say rebuttal, but his response. There you go, his response. But I think I heard something in what Brian was saying and the way he was framing his questioning, and it made me think about corporations when they set themselves up. They set up charters and bylaws and the purpose for their existence. And I believe that the so-called U.S. Constitution, as well as the state constitutions, do likewise. And so, therefore, as respects to, say, voting for someone to get in to possibly, maybe somehow, sort of make a change that will be beneficial to everybody else, I think anyone who might get in would be limited because there is that constitution that says we exist for this, that, or the third. So I myself, like being a non-voter, that doesn't even want to participate. You can blame me for somebody else being chosen if you want. But I will say to you who vote, did you really vote for someone that you know and trust, or did you select one of the persons that they put before you? And I landed there.
All right. Well, let me bring this. Let me just kind of bring this back here, because tonight our topic deals with the disabled community and, situations and scenarios that have the potential to affect, a service that we really do depend on and rely on. And we want to get basically an understanding of what our options are, so that we're not sitting here thinking that we're stuck like Chuck and that we can't do anything. But no, quite to the contrary. We want to let everybody in our community who knows or even who doesn't know what our options are, and then moving forward, how we can be effective with exercising these options to retain what we already have and not lose it. So I just wanted to dial that back in so that we don't really go off topic tonight, because this particular, podcast tonight is for the purpose of our disabled, brothers and sisters to our left and to our right. So if we could kind of stay in that vein, that would be very, very good and helpful, because we will continue this. We will have a part 2 of this next week on Monday, because we really want to let everybody know that they can come here with respect to topics that definitely do affect our community and those that are in our lives to assist us, so that we can work together and, just like a think tank, put our heads together, have a place where we're heard, so that we know that what we input matters, and we're not treated, by others like we don't matter. Like, oh, well, you can't do this, or because you can't see, your brain doesn't work, or because you can't walk, you can't speak. No. Here is where you come. You got comments, you got concerns. You don't like the way something is going, then we're going to figure it out. We'll figure it out right here. So if we could, let's keep it here. Let's dial it here. But FloFokuz, You got the floor, brother. All right. Is there another on the line that would like to add to the conversation that we have going now? The floor is open. The floor is open. Please feel free. We want to hear from you.
Nobody's speaking up. This is Joffrey again.
All right. All right.
Yeah. Okay. I appreciate what you're saying, because we are in this together, and we're looking for solutions. So now, do we have either a point of contact, or do we have information where we can maybe send an email and voice how we need the service as the service has been, where maybe we could even make note that if we knew, we would have used the service more, because I have a feeling that, they do all these statistics and whatnot, and it could be because the service is not being utilized that much why they're making a change. It could be. So do we want to do a letter writing campaign individually, or is a petition being developed so that we can all sign and get the word out to NJT, which is publicly owned, by the way. It's publicly owned. And, I want to be a part of the solution, not just a conversation. All right,
Well,
and I'll yield you there.
Okay, just to kind of comment on what you asked there, a petition of sorts is being put together to say exactly what each and every one of us, in other words, would say or express regarding the situation that is upcoming or that is proposed to take effect next year in January. And basically, all we need are electronic signatures. We don't need pen script. We don't really need that because this is going to be basically typed up. But if you want to sign, you know, hand, you can. But basically, electronic signatures. And if you have an account with Access Link, whatever your ID number is, that would be all that is needed for us to now forward this to the correct individuals in transit who actually have an advocacy toward those of us who are of the disabled community as well as our PCAs. So that's what is being developed now. Now, point of contact, quite sure if you need to, you can go over to prologicstrategies.com. If you do not have an account, create an account there. You can email Prince, you can chat to him, and there's a phone number on the website that you can pick up and you can call. Now, coming soon, there will be some more points of contact where you'll be able to directly contact me, but that is right now under development, but it shall be done soon. But at this point, contact Prince, contact FloFokuz, prologicstrategies.com. Free account, create a free account. And then you can have access to FloFokuz, and he will definitely forward some things to me that I can work on as well, and get some things rolling and underway. So we're doing this as a team, but we're also doing this with all of those who want to be a part of this solution, like yourself, Joffrey, and like I'm quite sure others who are on the line. And it's not just the people who are in our community, but it's those who are alongside of us as well. So you can also be a part of what is happening here, because we're making history. We're making strides. In other words, we're not sitting up here waiting for somebody to do something for us. We're taking the bull by the horns now and saying, okay, it's time for you to hear what we have to say. We're not just sitting idly by where you can say, oh, look at them, we feel so bad for them. No, no, no. You don't have to feel bad for us. Just listen to us. And that's where we're going with this. So, yeah, that's to answer your question. And All right. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So there we have it. And I would like to encourage everyone in attendance tonight, those of us who are regular listeners and those of us who are new, welcome everybody to this edition of From Poverty to Prosperity, where our topic and our focus deals with those who are in the disabled community and those who are friends and assistants to the disabled community, which is a large amount of people. I would encourage everybody, as the bulletins come out this week, to share those with those that you know, whether you send them by phone to forward them or whether you format it in an email and you send it out to people that you know there. Let them know what we're doing. Let them know that they have a place where they can come and they'll be heard. You got listening ears here, and their voice can be projected. So we're not just sitting back, just accepting things because we think that that's the way it is. No, we're here to provide options and then work on solutions, like we said tonight. So we got one on the table. So let's grab this bull by the horns, and we have, check this out, until the end of December to make a formal stated rebuttal or what we would call a negotiable offer. So in other words, they're saying, we want to do this, and we do have the right and the option to negotiate and say, well, that may sound good, but to us, this sounds better. And that way, we now show them that, hey, we're not helpless. We're not hapless. We're not, needing, you to wipe our nose and, rub our heads and all. No. We can speak, and we know what we want and what we need. That way, they'll take us serious. And at first, it may be a little bit difficult because they're not used to that type of response. But once they see that it's a real thing, then they will have to respect us. And also, there's another thing here. And I'm not going to say that this is absolute, but just think about it. When we let our voices be heard, the part that becomes leveraged is the new riders who only have a certain amount of options with their rideshare options. Now, when we speak up and say, hey, this is what we'll accept, blah, 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 and all of it goes in and everything is everything, and at the end of everything, we get what it is that we requested. Those new riders are not included in that because of the situation and because of who we are as a community and because of the laws that we have supporting us. There could be other, let's say, scenarios that develop as a result of our success to benefit those who did not receive the same thing. And I'll just leave that there.
Question. I do have a question. Because
okay.
I thought I heard something about 30 rides per month for the people who may very well go for being grandfathered. And how did the 20 rides per month come up when you have 25 in between? So you mentioned earlier about in negotiation talking about 15. I would say that in rebuttal or negotiation, No, we like to keep it at 30, and we try to window it down for everybody to 25. See, 25, which would bring the new riders up to 25 and the older riders down to 25. And if that doesn't fly, well, then we want to get to a point, not just 15, but let the bottom line be 20. And I yield.
Okay, just to speak to that, I gave just an example of a negotiation that could suggest that, but I wasn't saying to suggest that. It was just, just an example and a number that I just picked. So that if we were, for example, if we were not to get 40 rides a month and they wanted us to go down to 20, we would say, oh, no, I tell you what, we're not going to do 20, but we will accept 30.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of, us being dwindled all the way down to like half of what we originally had, we still keep something that allows us. And it was just an example.
Mm-hmm.
So we can talk about, later on when we get more input from more people, what their situations are and what works for them, so that the consensus can be pretty much, mostly together, and we can work from there and move forward, and then just show our numbers. Hey, here you go. We beat your deadline. So you can't say that we didn't say anything. Here you go, you got it. We got a record that you got it. Okay. Now the negotiation continues. Nothing can change at that point because we're still in negotiation. So guess what? Everything that was still has to be.
Oh, okay.
Because the negotiation is not done.
Permission to speak?
Yes, indeed. You have the floor.
So good evening. I'm glad you're still speaking about access lanes. I'm going to suggest, if it hasn't already been done, that you contact the abilities of the federal government, even though we know a lot is changing with the federal government. The service of Access Link, Xtra-Hype, mobility in other states, it's a federal benefit for people with disabilities, right? Mm-hmm. And the idea of it is that people with disabilities, it gives them access to living as normal a life as possible in terms of transportation accessibility. So I don't know where this time limit is coming from. I don't know, because there are people who go to dialysis at 4 o'clock in the morning. They would need the service. There are people who are working who need the service to come home at midnight, let's say, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because people with all types of disabilities are still functional, as we hear and see every week here. There ain't no stopping us now just because we just make some adjustments and shift gears. So my suggestion would definitely be to contact the American Disability Department of the federal government, because they are the ones who send the money down. So the way I understood it in 2006 or 8, when they made such a drastic change of bringing in car services to provide the service, it was so that the budget wouldn't get depleted, because
right.
They averaged back then that every ride pretty much costs a grant, because that's what happens is companies get grants to provide the service. Okay, so it's the federal government. Federal money comes down to the states. The states pass it on to the Metropolitan Transportation Authorities throughout all the cities, throughout all the states, right? And then then the MTA puts out an RFP to get companies to bid on providing the service. So there's a whole lot of trickling and a whole lot of pieces of that money being broken off along the way. They put the car services in place. It took an average of, they said back then, $67 a trip. And that trip could have been a 2-mile trip. The minimum was going to be approximately $67, according to the contract and the budget. So they put the car services in place because then they're just paying the cab fee. So it would take that 2-mile trip from, let's say, $67 down to maybe $15, right? I don't believe they should be limiting the number of hours in a day. I also don't believe they should be limiting how many trips per month you receive. It's not that kind of thing. So I know in New York, you pay, unless you're retired from MTA, which you ride free, in New York, you pay whatever the fare is. Whatever the fare is on the buses, that's what you pay accessorized. That's what it's called here. I know in Maryland, they actually gave a taxi card, and they would put a certain amount of money on that card that you could use for, again, car service, watching the budget, car service to go where you wanted to go. And that also gave you, I'm sorry if there's background, it also gave you the flexibility of when you were ready to do it. So I would tell my customers when I was driving accessorized, and I would tell people who I would say, go and apply for it. You know, when I see them struggling, like, why aren't you getting accessorized? Why aren't you using it? I tell them, as long as you don't need the lift, tell them whenever you place your appointment that you want a car service, because that car service gives you that flexibility. You might be going to an appointment at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, so you're going to give yourself about 3 or 4 hours, but you might be finished in 20 minutes because everybody's working. And so you'll have access to contacting, because I always say also in the morning before you start out, find out who your carrier is and get the number for them. This way you're in direct connection with the carrier, not accessorized or access a link. And because they were using the car services, they want to get that money. So if you say, I'm ready early, you know, can you send me a car? They want to get that ride because that's what they also get paid on. They get paid on the pickup. They don't care if they drop you off 2.5 years later. They get paid on the pickup. And that's why you'll see sometimes they'll pick up, you know, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 6. They get paid on the pickup and mileage, but definitely on the pickup. So I really feel that an investigation needs to be done to find out who's determining all of this time change stuff. And if it's local, does the federal agency who's funding that local MTA know what they're doing? Also, I'm going to stop after this. What they started doing was complaining. Oh, people are going to the casino. So when they were opening up the casino in Queens, the people decided, you can't go to the Yonkers casino anymore. How are you going to tell these people where they can go within, you know, the scope of their service?
Right.
But it was because people were complaining. But number one, some people worked at the casino who were using the service, and also some people were using that instead of, let's say, a senior center or being home alone. It's where they were meeting their friends for good mental health. They weren't necessarily gambling. So, yeah, thank you for that information. And along with 150 million other things, I'm going to check into it as well. Thank you for that. And yes, no, they can't do that. That's taking away the whole purpose of the service. Thank you.
Thank you. And just so everybody is clear as to what our topic is, It is with regard to the Uber and the Lyft rideshare options offered by Access Link here in New Jersey, which they are trying to reduce the number of rides per month that they will, dole out. And because certain of us who have joined the program, let's say a year ago or more, we basically are grandfathered in to the agreement, but because they have put it out there that they want to make the change, we have a time period of about 90 days. That's usually standard for most agreements to basically provide a response, a rebuttal, if you will, or a negotiation, which is what they call it. But if we don't, then we silently say to them, okay, just go ahead and do what you want to do. It's all right, which is the point that Brian brought up earlier, is that if you don't say anything, and I get where you're going, Brian, but if you don't say anything, then basically anything can go. So we have to be mindful of that. We're not helpless. We don't have to sit around waiting for somebody to pick up our case. We got the handles in our hand right now. So please, everybody.
May I?
Yes,
I'm sorry. May I just add this also? In this effort to get the attention and the signatures shouldn't just be people who are using the service. It should be everybody, because it can take a half a second for you to need that service. A half a second for something to happen that you need the service. People think it's for old people. People think, it's for people who have disabilities, and it could be a temporary. You could break your ankle and use the service just until you get better. So everybody should be a part of this stop. Everybody should be a part of this stop. And if they're doing that for Uber and Lyft, I'm sorry I missed that, then they're just putting the prejudice again on the app, on the app services. That's what they're doing.
Exactly.
But no, they should not be allowed to do that. And the Uber service is still cheaper than what it was in the contract. So, okay, thank you. I'm sorry.
No, thank you. Thank you. And yeah, we even mentioned that earlier, that it's not just for the people who take the service who are disabled, but also for their loved ones, their friends, their, PCA assistants. Yeah, everybody can be involved to support, to lend their support, to say, no, you're not going to do that. No, we're going to stand with them on this issue, and we're not going to see that happen. So, yeah, please, I'm just imploring everybody. We got our numbers, this evening, but let's endeavor to increase. We'll send out some bulletins this week. Bulletins will come out, all right? I encourage everybody, share them with the people you know. Just text message them. Hey, check this out. We're having this discussion on Monday. Come and be a part of it. Let's get the ball rolling, and let's provide our own solutions. So with that being said, I'm gonna get ready to do a summation. Does anybody else have a comment, a question, a statement, or want to add something to the conversation before we begin to close out? Okay. Well, I want to thank everybody.
Marcus, yes, I just want to say thank you for understanding my point of view.
Yes.
I have nothing against people who need these services, because it is vital to their moving about. But I was just making the statement, as you said, that silence is not worth anything, and not casting your vote means the same as being silent. And it's time out for us as a society. The higher-ups don't care about us. They proved it. And if the right people aren't in position that's going to have empathy or character over the money, it's not going to mean anything. Character is what is needed in this country. It's enough white envelopes being passed around. Character has to supersede the money, or it's just going to be a lot of noise. So, with that being said, to you and your podcast and your hype co-host, Xtra-Hype, I just want to say God bless you, sir, and keep doing the damn thing.
Thank you so much
I just
for
like
that,
to
brother.
say thank you. That's my office.
Yes, yes.
Oh, sweet. Thank you, Marcus, for bringing that topic up. I'm not in New York. I'm here in Charlotte, North Carolina, but we do have Uber and Lyft taking care of something like Accessor Ride we have in New York here, and I'll be in next Monday, right? Next Monday,
yes.
we'll have another one and bring more people about this subject, right?
That's right.
Thank you, because I know somebody who goes to the casino with it, and you're right. They meet their friends, and we do need more social life in this country too. So it can become so boring. I had a person. I drive with Lyft. I share a ride with my car, and this brother from Kenya got in the car, and he needed a ride because he ran out of gas, and he said he'd been here for a year. He said the social life though here is very poor, sad, because and he says it's only like mostly talk on the phone kind of relationships with people here, not face to face. He's saying in Kenya they meet up, they have areas where they come together and dance or have meetings and things together. And here he's noticing we just do everything by phone. And I said, wow, that's he confirmed that, because I thought the same thing. Even though like our podcast people, I would love to be able to see you all, and really, because sometimes too, when you see a person, it builds up more trust about them. You know a little more about them. You've been in their house, you see how they live. It helps you to know a person more, and then because I have so many friends that just they're not my friend no more, and that's they living somewhere else, or they're not talking to me much or coming to my place and stuff. So I just hope we can get a better communications, and I'll let people know about this Grown Folk Radio, because it's just, we're doing it here. Thank you so much for Marcus for bringing it.
Thank you so much, Mohammed. Thank you. And we got to get ready to close up. I believe we got King David coming on with Belief Systems tonight at 8 p.m., unless something has changed. And I haven't heard that anything has changed. So we're going to go ahead and get ready to close out. I want to thank everybody who's been on tonight. I want to encourage you all, when you receive the bulletins this week, please share them with people that you know, so they know what we're doing here next Monday. And also, you'll have a link to PrologicStrategies.com within the bulletin, so you can go there and create a free account. Also, get your bonus points to use towards our Flip Side Friday this month, last Friday of this month, and upcoming events. So with that being said, everyone, we want to thank you, and I'm going to turn it over to you, FloFokuz. You give us the last word, brother, and you take us out of here.
Exactly.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You're more than welcome. Good night.
Thank you. Thank
Good
you,
night.
everybody.
Good night. Good
Honored
night.
to be it.
Honored to have you. Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. Good night.
Good night. Have the best night ever.